What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of The 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best gaming-related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. Our first topic of the day, guys, is going to be about a series and a franchise that I've been pretty critical of at certain points throughout the course of its, additions and add-ons to its franchise, that being Assassin's Creed. Guys, I've been overly critical at times of this franchise on the YouTube channel for a couple of reasons, but one of the biggest is that I was a massive fan of this franchise when it first started, and then after a few games, I still thought that it had a lot of potential, and once we got to Assassin's Creed Revelations, it kind of started, I started wondering to myself, where are they going with this franchise? And then from there, it kind of felt like a lot of downhill with some of the games and the continuations of the franchise. So all in all, guys, I've been pretty critical, especially of like Odyssey and Origins. I've just thought that they weren't, that great. Even though some people really liked them, others really didn't. I was one of the people who just hasn't really liked the direction they've been going in the Assassin's Creed franchise. Well, in this segment, I want to talk about Assassin's Creed 5, or the code name is Assassin's Creed Ragnarok, and I want to talk about everything that we know so far about the game, and we can talk about what my thoughts are on this title, if a lot of these rumors are to be true, and I would love to get your guys' feedback and your opinions on Assassin's Creed 5 or Ragnarok in the comment section below. So in an article, guys, that was written by Jordan Oloman of Games Radar, after a salty sabbatical in the Hellenic period, Assassin's Creed is supposedly heading to the world of Norse mythology for its next installment, if conflicting leaks are to be believed. Assassin's Creed Ragnarok is the reported working title for the follow-up to 2018's Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the next game in the series rumored to arrive this year or in 2021 to complement the release of next-gen consoles. Ahead of the release of the game, Let's dive into what we know. The Norse news first arrived when a peculiar poster in The Division 2 was spotted by YouTuber Jor Raptor back in early 2019. The in-game iconography stars a noble-looking Viking warrior clutching the Apple of Eden, a key symbol from the lore of the Assassin's Creed series. The poster is situated in the Potomac Event Center in-game if you'd like to take a closer look. The focus of the poster seems to be promoting an opera performed at the JFK Center called Valhalla, critics describing it as a graceful, powerful work of opera. This led Kotaku's Jason Schreier to publish a report backing up the possibility of a Norse Assassin's Creed game codenamed Viking and set for a 2020 release, according to two independent sources. That means you should take all of the rumors mentioned in this article with a serious pinch of salt, speaking of which, a few months ago, another rumor popped up on Reddit claiming that Ragnarok, or in this case Kingdom, is set in the early 1000s and follows a Danish Viking, the game taking place across Denmark, southern Sweden and Norway, and parts of Ireland and England. So, really quick, guys, in my opinion, as far as if I were to be the one choosing the name, or if I had a choice in the name of the next Assassin's Creed, I would like them just to call it Assassin's Creed 5. Because it would feel a little bit more like they were continuing the narrative started in the first, 4 games. So I'd like to kind of see them kind of maybe go into an Assassin's Creed 5. Assassin's Creed Ragnarok, I'm not saying that that's a bad name. It kind of sounds pretty cool. But as far as that goes, I'd like the name to be Assassin's Creed 5. Also, as far as what they're saying with like Norse mythology, I would like that. I think that would be something different. I think it might be a pretty cool way in which that they could take the series. Now, the question is who are the characters going to be? What are they, how are they going to kind of tie this into the rest of the Assassin's Creed games? It's hard to say, but yet another rumor cropped up in February, this time a lot more developed, boasting a potential release date of September 29, 2020, and the inclusion of 4-player co-op. Apparently, you'll play as a character called Jorah and lead a band of Vikings. The Hidden Blade is said to return. Massive wars will take place in real time, and new locations will include York, London, Paris, and Kiev. The leak also claims the game will be cross-gen, releasing on PC, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PS4, and PS5. So you know what it sounds like to me, guys? It sounds a lot like Assassin's Creed Black Flag. It kind of reminds me of that, maybe the direction it's trying to go in. And Black Flag, guys, was another one of those games I felt was really good. And I always get like kind of the chronologically like where we are as far as time is concerned, and even where all the games are, because they've been making so many games. Which game, when Black Flag came out, if that was after Revelations, but I remember Black Flag being probably, it was one of the last really good ones in my opinion in the franchise. All of the Assassin's Creed games have introduced interesting concepts, but I just thought that they kind of started losing their way by pretty much just trying to pump out these games every single year, which I've been critical of Ubisoft for that. But what I will say is if it does truthfully come out on Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PS4, and PS5, that's going to be something I think that might be a pretty good idea, and I think it would be really cool if it did come out in September 29th of this year. But we really haven't seen anything for this game yet, and that's why I'm a little bit skeptical that it's going to come out this year. I'm thinking maybe next year, because they're going to want to promote this thing pretty, for a while at least, trying to get everyone and building the hype and such. The leak delves into further story spoilers if you're willing to read them, so check the Reddit thread for even more gory details. It's also worth noting that in October of last year, Ubisoft delayed Gods of and Monsters, Rainbow Six Quarantine, and Watch Dogs Legion into a new launch window between April 2020 and March 2021. This means that this rumored Assassin's Creed project could crop up very soon as a launch title for the new consoles, or much later down the line once the dust is settled after the launch of the PS5 and Xbox Series X. So I'm more thinking, guys, that Assassin's Creed, Ragnarok or 5, whatever it might be, I believe that it's going to come out next year in 2021. I don't think it's going to come out this year, because I think Rainbow Six Quarantine and Watch Dogs Legion probably will be even pushed back even further into the year because of the pandemic going on in our world. So I think they might even be postponed even further, and Assassin's Creed is going to be pushed back as well. That's just kind of my thinking behind it. Now, what would be the wish list, guys? And I'll kind of go through this. I'd love to hear your guys' wish list for Assassin's Creed 5 or Assassin's Creed Ragnarok. Bring back stealth. This is a bit of a reach given that we're talking about a Viking game, but one of the main complaints lobbed at the more recent Assassin's Creed games is the death of stealth mechanics in favor of action RPG combat. Don't get me wrong, I like the new fighting gameplay in Origins and Odyssey, but it was distinctly lacking when compared to the clandestine tone of the original few games and atmosphere that has only gotten more distant over time. I 100% agree with this. Bring back stealth, guys, 100%. Now, I get it, with Viking game, it's going to be kind of hard to do that. However, they're moving in this direction of action RPG, but what made the series so great was the stealth elements to it. There's times where, of course, there's action, but having a lot of stealth elements makes you feel more of like an assassin. And so I really feel that that's something that made the series great, and they kind of just moved away from that. And so I'm hoping, I really am hoping, guys, that they bring back that in this upcoming game. At least if it's not as like hardcore as the first games that came out in the franchise, hopefully they at least kind of give us a really nice balance between the action and the stealth. Now, explore uncharted lands. If the leaks are to be believed, Assassin's Creed Ragnarok will focus on Northern Europe as the Vikings invade and pillage their terrible way through the West, leaving a grisly legacy. It'd be great to see some parts of the world underrepresented in video games like Norway and Sweden and Northern England, where the Vikings made a serious impression. So I agree with this as well. Exploring uncharted lands, I think that's a really good idea as well, guys. Here's my thing. I've said this about Odyssey and Origins. The things that really bothered me about some of the newer Assassin's Creed games were, I understand where Ubisoft was what they were trying to do in those games, where they were trying to force you to really explore things by doing side missions and such in order to continue doing the main missions. But that was something I didn't like. I didn't like that we were forced into doing side missions in order to explore, as well as just like learn more of the story and back history. I like doing the side missions on my own time, but if I'm really diving into a first person, I should say a story campaign, I am going to, without a doubt, want to continue that, because you'll be like playing a game. Let's just say that they force you to do side missions like they did in like Far Cry 5 and such. In order to continue the single player story, what happens is you start getting into that story significantly, and then you're almost pulled out of it and forced to do side missions when you want to find out what happens next. And sometimes those side stories can be super grueling. So I really hope in this one they have the side stories, they have that open world, mechanics and such, but I hope that the side stories we can just kind of do on our own time. A lot of times I'll play the game one time through, play that single player narrative, and then afterwards I'll go back, play it again with playing the side missions as well to really understand the full grasp of everything. I just don't like being forced to do specific things when I'm playing a game like this. Bigger is not always better. As brilliant as Origins and Odyssey were as functional history sandboxes, I've often had conversations with my friends about how very few of us has finished either of these games. Odyssey is particularly bloated, a gargantuan hunk of endorphins spread across most of Greece. The map is littered with quests and interactive segments to ping between, which turns every minute into a battle or a conversation. There's not much time to smell the roses anymore as there was with the earlier games in the series. I'd love to see Assassin's Creed rein in some of the service aspects of the reboot series and focus on letting the environment and story speak for itself. That doesn't mean removing the complex, interesting loot systems, but it could do with some more focus to tell an impactful modern tale. And I agree. I think, guys, that bigger, it's not always better, without a doubt. As far as with a game like this, it's certainly kind of making sure that you're telling a really great narrative experience and then having, other ways that you can connect with the franchise, whether that be side stories or multiplayer co-op modes and things of that nature. I remember, some of the multiplayer aspects and modes that they had in Assassin's Creed and the earlier titles were very interesting. And I think it was Syndicate that was really interesting. I forget which one it was, or maybe it was Brotherhood. But there were a number of these titles that had interesting multiplayer concepts. I'd like to bring some of that back as well. I feel like they've just drifted so far away from the story, or really what made Assassin's Creed great. And that's just my personal opinion. I would love to hear your guys' opinion about that in the comment section below. What is it, guys, that you want to see in Assassin's Creed at this point? Do you guys want to see them go back in time to the Viking era? Do you want them to actually come into modern times or even into the future a little bit? I don't think that any of us would really like that much, but nonetheless, it's something that could end up feeling similar to like a Splinter Cell story or something if they were to come into modern times. But I think, guys, they need to kind of get back to the roots of Assassin's Creed. My biggest criticisms of this franchise are really that they kind of drifted away from what made the series so great. And I want a reason to get back into this. And I think this sounds like definitely a reason to come back to the franchise and really check it out. But it all comes down to the gameplay, the mechanics, of course, like where they're trying to take this story. I'll definitely check it out without a doubt, and I want to love Assassin's Creed again. I'd love to hear from you guys, though. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about Assassin's Creed 5 or Ragnarok at this point, and what do you guys want to see in it. And for more Assassin's Creed Ragnarok content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. One tweet has gotten the entire gaming community to really come together and get extremely hyped, and that would be a tweet that came from the official Crysis Twitter account, guys, and it stated receiving data. So 2 words got the entire gaming community and those of us who are big Crysis fans to really start talking. Now, to put a little bit of context here, guys, Crysis, the official Twitter account, has not posted anything on their Twitter account since December 13th of 2016. So give it a little context here. When we state here in this segment that Crysis 4, is it confirmed as far as from a major standpoint? The answer is, well, it's kind of hard to say, really. I mean, but the question is here is that obviously something is going on, because receiving data is obviously stating that there's more to come here. And what I believe, guys, is that something that I've been talking about on the YouTube channel is Crysis 4 and why this needs to be a game that comes out at some point or another, why this is a franchise that deserves to coexist with other shooters that are out there. This is really something interesting and something that's absolutely awesome if we are going to see another Crysis. I think, guys, that obviously something's coming. Whether it's a Crysis free-to-play game, which is what everyone's been talking about, essentially, guys, that the next Crysis game, the CEO of Crytek had come out years ago and stated that the next Crysis game wasn't going to be called Crysis 4. It was going to be a Crysis free-to-play game. And what ended up happening was they ended up moving into a direction of Hunt Showdown, and they made Hunt Showdown. It's actually a pretty popular game. People really like it, but everyone still wants to see a continuation of Crysis. Well, what this tells us is that what we've been thinking might happen at some point, and been hoping might happen, is most likely happening. I think we can say, guys, that maybe not Crysis 4, but a Crysis continuation is going to be continued, or a Crysis free-to-play game is confirmed at this point. Because receiving data, there's something coming. Okay, is it going to be a mobile game? Is it going to be, a game just on PC? Is it going to be on consoles? What's this going to be? We don't know yet. We don't really know any information, but I guarantee you we're going to find out something here in the very foreseeable future. I'll certainly keep you guys all up to speed as more information comes out. But I think that this confirms that Crysis is not done yet. Even if it's a mobile game, guys, which obviously all of us would not be very happy if it was just a mobile game and we didn't get a continuation of the franchise in a major way, we'd be pretty upset about that. But what this tells us is that Crysis might not be done yet. It very well may have more stories to tell us moving forward. And who knows where it's going? Who knows where this franchise is going? I think that there's no doubt, at least in my mind, that they are continuing Crysis. And I thought that they would at some point or another, like we've talked about on the YouTube channel, but I just didn't know really what it was going to be. Was it going to be a free-to-play game? What was it, are they going to directly continue from Crysis 3? It was really hard to say. Here's what I will say, though, about it, guys, is that Crysis, a free-to-play game, could be absolutely huge. Let's say they bring it out later this year, they bring it out next year on the next-gen consoles, and it's a free-to-play game, and obviously I think it could certainly coexist with other free-to-play games, and it could probably do really well, especially like if they added like some Battle Royale modes. They had, of course, their normal modes that have made their, multiplayer great. I would love to have a story mode as well, but maybe they think that Prophet's story is pretty much done at this point, so they just wanted to make a multiplayer experience. And I think that's possible. It's possible that we'll get a free-to-play game that is specific to maybe Battle Royale, as well as just some, team deathmatch based, modes and such that you can play that were popular amongst the franchise. And why can't this game coexist with other shooters in the space? I mean, I don't see why not, guys. This is still to this day has been known as one of like the best graphics on a PC. That being like the first Crysis game was always talked about. If you could have a PC that could run it at the full capacity, was a huge ordeal. But with that being said, guys, I would love to hear from all of you. What does receiving data, the tweet coming from the official Crysis account after all these years, after the last tweet coming December 13 of 2016, what does that tell you? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I think we're going to have more Crysis news coming up here very soon, and I'll be sure to keep you guys all up to speed as further information comes out. And for more Crysis 4 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. A franchise that I've wanted to see a continuation of is Deus Ex. This is a franchise, guys, that's been pretty popular. There's been a number of sales as far as like how many copies this franchise has sold that have been well into the millions. And at this point, guys, the big question is what happened to Deus Ex? Because this is a franchise that kind of just disappeared off the face of the planet after, a period of time, which, I mean, we're talking games that really have spanned over the course of time. I mean, we're talking dating back to the PlayStation 2, and now all of a sudden, it seems like we're kind of in this limbo state with this franchise. So let's talk about it. So guys, Deus Ex, like I said, has spanned from Deus Ex, that came out on the PS2, and then the last edition of this franchise came out, Deus Ex Mankind Divided. And so you've had a number of different, titles that have come out over time, but the last one that came out, guys, was Deus Ex Breach, and then Deus Ex Mankind Divided, which was the VR experience back in January 24, 2017. So it's been a little while since we really had significant, continuations of this franchise. Now, what I will say is, as far as the reception goes, guys, it's been pretty positive overall with this franchise. I mean, from the very first Deus Ex all the way to Deus Ex Mankind Divided, you're getting 80s and 90s as far as, out of 100. for basically any one of these games. As far as the sales go of since September 2011, Deus Ex got 1.1 million plus copies sold. You had Deus Ex Invisible War, 1.2 million, and Deus Ex Human Revolution, 2.18 million. So probably Human Revolution, I would say, guys, was probably for the most part, probably sold the most copies out of any of them. But at the same time, this is a franchise that's selling millions upon millions of copies. So what happened here? Well, if we read a article from Eddie Makic of GameSpot following a report last year that claimed Square Enix put the Deus Ex series on hiatus after underwhelming sales of the latest entry, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, the publisher said the franchise will come back someday. Square Enix CEO Yasuki Matsuda also said at the time that preliminary plans for a new entry in the series were already in the works. Now, one of the leaders at Mankind Divided studio, Eidos Montreal, has doubled down on this. Speaking to PC Games and studio head David Onfozzi said, Deus Ex is not dead. I confirm that. So that's a big statement right there, that Deus Ex is not dead. I mean, at the end of the day, guys, what really happens to really any franchise that is seeing, problems or hasn't seen a continuation, usually it comes down to one of two things. Number one would be not good sales. That's kind of like the number one overall thing for like the latest entry or a couple entries in the franchise. And number two would be problems with the developers and the publishers, like not, things they're not seeing eye to eye as far as creatively, or one of the studios that shuts down or something. As for why Eidos isn't moving forward with production on a new Deus Ex game at this point, Afonso said the team is already stretched with its work on Shadow the Tomb Raider and an all-new Avengers game with Marvel. Additionally, the studio is working on an unannounced third game, Afonso teased, so it's enough at the moment for us. Regarding the unannounced third game, Afonso strongly suggests it is not a new Thief title. However, it could be the rumored Guardians of the Galaxy game, though this is not confirmed. When Square Enix announced its partnership with Marvel, the company said it was for multiple games, so Guardians of the Galaxy could be one of the other ones. Afonso's comments match up closely with what Matsuda said before about the future of the Deus Ex franchise. At the time, Matsuda said Eidos had a full plate already and that Deus Ex franchise will have to wait until a later date to come back. The issue is, we do not have limitless resources, Matsuda said. We have several big titles that we work with, and that's partly a factor in what our lineup looks like. Of course, it would be ideal if we could work on all of them all of the time, but the fact of the matter is some titles have to wait their turn. The reason there isn't a Deus Ex right now is just a product of our development lineup because there are other titles we are working on. So I kind of see where he's coming from with this. Obviously, guys, when they're working on all these different other titles, how are they supposed to get everything, right? They're not going to be able to. But part of me feels like Deus Ex has been put on indefinite hiatus because Square Enix is working, and Eidos Montreal working on, obviously Marvel's Avengers, and then probably Guardians of the Galaxy, and multiple other games within that franchise. They're probably going to make a ton of money off those. Like, let's be real. At the end of the day, it all comes down to money. So, number one, they didn't sell enough copies with Deus Ex Mankind Divided. And then on top of that, they're working on these other, like, big blockbuster titles that could potentially make them, sell millions upon millions of copies, doubling, tripling what Deus Ex as an entire franchise has been able to sell. So, to me, it feels like they're going to bring out Marvel's Avengers, and then after Marvel's Avengers comes out, if it does well, which I think it will, they're going to continue with like Guardians of the Galaxy and other games within the Marvel franchise. I just don't know if I can see a Deus Ex coming out anytime in the foreseeable future. I feel like it's been on an indefinite hiatus at this point because of just bad sales at this point, guys. I don't think that it's... they are literally stating here, guys, that Deus Ex is not dead and it's not been forgotten, but you got to really look at it from all of those perspectives. So at the end of the day, guys, I really feel that it really comes down to how well some of these other games do up until a new Deus Ex would get announced. So all in all, guys, Shadow of the Tomb Raider and other different AAA single-player games cost $75 million to $100 million on Fonzie said, and that's production only. It's close to $35 million on the promotion, so there's definitely a lot of pressure. We cannot avoid it, but at the same time, for us to have these incubation projects and try small things, that gives us the opportunity to test, prepare, and secure some stuff and remove some risk. So at the end of the day, the other thing that comes down is how much it costs to make these games. Deus Ex has been said to be a pretty expensive game, and so it has to sell well for them to really justify making more games. And so with one of those games not doing well, they probably took a loss on that, which pretty much means that, okay, maybe they'll come back to it again and try it, like try creatively different things moving forward. But at the same time, they may think, let's work smarter here and just move into a direction of the Marvel projects. It just makes more sense for them at this point. Now, having a small team work on Deus Ex or selling the IP to a new developer might be something that could definitely happen at some point or another. I'll keep you guys up to speed as more information comes out regarding Deus Ex, because I think that it's another franchise that deserves to coexist with other games, and I'd love to see a continuation of it. More in the traditional sense, like continuing it. Don't make it a VR or a mobile game. Make it on the, Xbox, PlayStation, and, even maybe on the Switch, but also on PC. But let me know what you guys think happened to Deus Ex. Was it sales? Was it the Marvel games that they're working on now? What really was it, in your guys' opinion? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more Deus Ex content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.